And this video, all our videos come off the back of things that happen, you know, questions we get asked. You know, I'm quite famous for not actually scripting an awful lot, which I really should do. You know, everybody does YouTube channels, scripts a lot, and we're not looking to monetize this channel. You know, this is just information that gets out there, gets people to know us, and if they decide to use our services, well, good. If it helps you, well, even better, even if you don't use us. And with that in mind, recently we had a terrible start to the year with losing clients, sadly passing away, and then the most recent person that I know sadly passed away yesterday, and it really brought home how much we don't talk about those kind of things. You know, when we're going through the excitement of doing a visa, doing a residency, a new life in the sun, you know, it's all exciting, it's all looking to the future, it's all about getting that part right and maintaining that part. But what happens if, in a worst case scenario, what things do we need to be considering? And maybe it's something that, you know, we need to work on also as a company and emphasising to people. You know, I never consider our job to be just getting somebody residency, you know, and that's it. You know, I would love to have more time to do a lot more free content and talk to people about life in Spain, what to expect. But anyway, here we are. So I wanted to do this video, really just give a bit of a roundup of things that you should be considering when coming to Spain in maybe a worst case scenario. It has nothing really to do with visas, has nothing to do with residencies, has nothing to do with selling services, but I just thought it'd be a good idea to run through this quick list. And the reason I have got this list is because I've literally just had a conversation with somebody surrounding this who sadly lost a friend, and they came to me and said, "Look, I haven't got my stuff in order, what do you suggest?" So we just went through these points and I thought it was a good idea to get it on a video. Okay, so the first thing is, if you're coming to Spain and you have assets in Spain, make sure you get a Spanish will. Okay. Also, if you live in Spain and you had a will before 2013, make sure you update it because they changed some regulation then. Okay. Now, if you're a British citizen and you're looking at, well, if you're a foreign citizen making a will in Spain, then you have the right to make the will out, and it will respect the law of where you're coming from. Check with a notary. I know Brits can do it, so they can apply British law to their Spanish will. So please check with a notary to make sure that I'm correct for every country. That's not my job, that's a notary's job on how to write the will. But you can definitely, Brits and EU citizens can use the law of where they've come from. So the British citizen, my Spanish will, is written under the UK law, should I say, the UK system. I can divide my assets as I would do in the UK because I'm British. Okay. Definitely something to check with different regions where you live in Spain. Certainly, if you can find a notary that will do you a bilingual will, then please do so. We've got one here in the Cala de Mijas that we use for our clients. It's very good. When our clients come in, they fill out a form. We then send it to the notary. The notary then draw up the draft will. We send it to our clients. If they're happy, they go along with the translator and they sign. Okay, so definitely a Spanish will, if you have assets in Spain, is a must. Remember, your British will may cover the assets, but only after a long legal period. So yeah, you definitely need, if you've got Spanish assets in Spain, to have a Spanish will in place for if the unthinkable happens. Funeral plans. So when again the unthinkable happens here in Spain, Spanish typically have an insurance called a decesos. Okay, this insurance is like a funeral insurance, which is something was to happen to a member of the family, then everything would be covered from the moment that they pass and get taken to the chapel of rest. Now remember, in Spain, everything happens so quickly. It is absolutely unbelievable how quick things happen here, to the point that it's always a real struggle if it's say a natural death or there's no cause for the person who's passed away to be retained for any reason. Maybe if it's a death which requires some sort of inspection, then they would have to go to the hospital to be inspected. You know, but if not, if it's just a normal death, then that person will be taken straight to the chapel of rest, and you know, they're looking at getting you out there in 2 or 3 days max. You know, normally a Spaniard would be a day or so. So it's very, very important that you have either a funeral plan in place. Now, there's plenty of companies. In fact, down below I'm going to put a link to an article that we wrote about funeral plans that do them in Spain, where you can either make a set payment, you can make monthly payments, and you've got something in place in your language if you sadly pass away, and the people around you who are left won't have to bother with it. So a funeral plan is definitely a good idea. If you don't get a funeral plan, in Spain there is an insurance called an Excesos. Now that could be quite expensive depending on your age. Me, for example, our family, we've got one, we've had one for years. We don't have a set funeral plan payment, so we haven't paid a lump sum for when the unthinkable happens. All we've done is we pay on a monthly basis a small insurance, and unfortunately you don't get that money back, but you've got the security that if something happens to one of the 4 of us, then it's something we don't have to worry about. All the expenses are covered for the funeral. Okay. The third option when talking about funeral plans, evidently, is to have a lump sum in the bank. So if something happens to you, your partner, your spouse, your closest member of family can just go to that and get the money and take it to the funeral directors and pay them directly. What's the problem with that? Well, generally you're going to be paying double. Funeral plan, you know, when they see you coming, you need that service. Unfortunately, I have been in that situation where someone died without a plan in place, and I literally, and this is not a lie, I had to go to the family and say, where's your credit card? You know, I need 3,000 euros to start this process. They're telling me I need that. And I was translating. So, you know, that's hard. It's easy to say, oh, well, I've got 5 grand stashed away from a funeral, don't worry about it. But, you know, at that point when it happens, trust you me, I've been in that situation where I've had to walk up to somebody, look them in the face, and they're saying to me, what's going on now? And I've had to say to them, I need a lot of money, because that's what they're asking me for. I can't do anything without it. Okay, so yeah, definitely something to bear in mind. Insurances and banks and life insurance, stuff like that. We're talking about your financials. In the case of the unthinkable, how are your financials structured? Is everything in one person's name? You know, if something happened to me, for example, can my wife access some cash just to get her through the week until we release all the assets? I don't know. You know, that's not the case. In my case, it's not the case. But a lot of people are financially dependent on their partners because that's the way life's taken them. We have various people on visas where it's just one person who actually holds all the assets because it's just in their name, and the other person maybe you know, has been at home, you know, looking after the household, for example. You know, it could be any sort of structure. You know, we have a structure where 2 people have very low incomes, but one person sold a property asset and they hold all the savings assets. You know, and so definitely for when you move to Spain, look at the access your partner has to any asset you want them to have. Everything that's going to be reflected in your will. But I'm more talking about the immediate need for cash. Okay, so there would be an immediate need for some cash if the unthinkable happened, and if your bank account gets blocked, or sometimes they'll block half a bank account, then you'll find that that won't be released for quite a few days. So definitely check out how your assets, what is your emergency plan for cash until the will is read and the assets are divided. That's something to bear in mind. I mentioned about insurances as well. There might be life insurances, the assessor's insurance like I mentioned before, but who holds the details for those? That's something to look at. Okay, the next thing is, and this relates to that, is the support network and updating your support network. Now, when I say that, I mean, what is the support? We always talk about when we're doing discovery trips, what is the support network around you? Who are the people who are going to be around you? Have you got a plumber, electrician? Have you got someone to come in? But that's also going to be the case with if the unthinkable happens. You're going to need to have access to either a car, a taxi, or somewhere to drive. If it's a partner, something happens to my wife, I wouldn't drive. I couldn't be a night. I'd be distraught, so I couldn't drive. So who have I got around me to drive me if I needed to go somewhere? You know, where have you got? If you've got kids, where have you got to drop the kids? Sounds really crazy. These things also are evolving, they change. So what do I do? As a family man, what do I do? Well, my accountant actually holds all the numbers for my insurances and stuff like that, and my family and friends, even my family in the UK, have an emergency sort of number to call if the unthinkable happens, where they could maybe take a little bit of control away from my wife, because she would be distraught, I hope. So what is your support network? Where is all your stuff kept? I strongly recommend you keep a folder with all your up-to-date, revise it on a yearly basis. You don't have to be there every week putting stuff in, but keep a folder with every single thing that someone would need in an emergency. So if you imagine that there's two of you, one of you passes, the other person's left, that person's not going to be in a fit state to start looking for paperwork, what would you have in a folder to give to a third party to crack on with whatever needs to be done? Well, in that folder, if you've got a funeral plan, everything will be in there. There'd be a copy of the NIE numbers in there, or your TIE cards. There may be a copy of the property deeds in there. There may be a copy of the will in there. There may be a copy of a document which is emergency numbers. So if you've made contact with an accountant, or if you've got any sort of professionals who use Upsticks, I don't know, maybe all those numbers are in there, because somebody may come along, it may be a son or a daughter, and that person might open that folder and go, who the hell are Upsticks? I'm going to give them a ring anyway, and we might hold information that can help, you know. I'm just saying that as an example. So make sure you have that emergency folder. And that leads on to my last thing, which is family. Does your family know where you are, you know, your closest family, where you are, what they need to do in the event of emergency? Always give them a brief. It's very, very hard to brief your family on the unthinkable, but then definitely give them a brief when they come over on holiday. Just say things like, look, this is obviously the town hall, this is who you need to contact. Have they got an NIE number? If you've got assets that you might be leaving to a family member, it might be a good idea to get them an NIE number, albeit that they're not going to be using it until the unthinkable happens. Who knows? Some people would argue that that's not a valid reason to get an NIE number. I personally think that if you get a family member an NIE number, you know, in Spain, as long as they're a non-resident and they've got non-resident tax status, they will need that if they ever have to come to claim an inheritance, so why not? Okay, so yeah, there you go. That's just a food for thought for people who are coming over, a little bit of a morbid subject, but definitely something to think about, and think about what you need to put in place if the unthinkable ever happens when you actually move here. But that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope that's helped and gave you something else to think about. As you know, we help people get visas and residency. If you like the channel, please subscribe, hit the belly thing, which is somewhere around here, and I promise to have quite a few more videos up in the next month or so.